guest today is Ann Tsung. Hey, Ann, Dr.
Hi.
Ann. So Ann Tsung is an emergency medicine, critical care, and aerospace trained physician. She works full-time as a flight surgeon at NASA and works part-time in the ICU and the ER. She's also real estate investor and podcast show host of its Not Rocket Science show. That's one where I was a guest. As a productivity doctor, she helps people free up 10 hours a week or more in 1 hour so they can be in their zone of genius. She met also, She met all societal definitions of success and yet was not as happy as she should be, something I personally relate to, and I'm sure a lot of people do. She then embarked on a learning and self-discovery journey around the world with her fiancé. She spent thousands and countless hours on self-work over the span of multiple years, which included brain training, leadership, peak performance, emotional intelligence, and coaching. So welcome, Anne, again. Actually, officially, it would be Dr. Ann, but I do hope you don't mind me once in a while omitting the very, very admirable prefix to that. But, we're going to be talking about productivity and optimizing productivity. And just for you guys to understand, Anne is a young mom. And I just now saw an example of optimizing productivity right before we went online. And I know that a lot of active women who do business, who have their careers and children, we get so much commentary on how do you manage all of that. So, but I guess your journey into productivity started probably before that. So I know it's not a very official start, but Anne, could you please start with explaining? I mean, you're a surgeon for NASA. Why productivity?
Well, thank you, first of all, Christina, for having me on this live talk. I love it. I love seeing people. We have like 87 attendees now from all over the world. So I'm very grateful for everyone's time here. And what Christina was talking about right before the show, I have a 10-month-old son, and I was pumping right before the show just so I can get my milk in or out, actually ready to go because it was my time to pump. So in terms of productivity, was essentially to scratch my own itch. Back then when I was in college, I was, skipping class, like missing class because of oversleeping, missing deadlines, missing calls. And I just thought, in order to get me through medical school and then also residency, fellowship, and also have time with friends and family, I had to dig really deep in finding out all sorts of ways of optimizing my routine, because my why is being able to be present and spending time with my loved ones at the end of the day and not have things looming in my head still, and not being able to be present at the end of the day. Everything was fairly optimized until 10 months ago, I had my 10-month-old, and then it was like, whoa, no sleep, routines are gone. And I basically had to revamp my whole entire routine and further optimize so that I could at least, do my still get my coaching business launch, social media. And then also at the same time, I was able to assess 2 multifamily, a 17 unit and an 8 unit, and bought our primary residence within 6 months postpartum. So
that's, it sounds incredibly overwhelming, to be honest. And I think it's overwhelming, but it's also so common especially in the US. Maybe I'm just being European right now, but I think in a lot of the Western world, it's so common that we do so many things. On one side, it feels like you can't fit so much into your life, but and maybe this call is incredibly timely for me, because I'll just probably share my own experience. I do something that I love right now. I'm publicizing my book, I do interviews. So most of the things that I do, I actually truly enjoy doing that. But I felt overwhelmed to the point when I woke up this morning and I said, I'm not doing anything. I know I have like a whole pile of things that I need to do, but I just can't. It's like a little, like a slight depressive episode. So what is this productivity optimization really about? Is it about fitting more, or is it about actually getting more out of less?
It's absolutely the latter. And, before before my baby, the push was I want to go eat happy hour with my friends after I'm done. And I want to have the rest of the day to go to the gym, or I want to spend time with my then boyfriend, then fiance. After the baby, oh my goodness, it was all about maximizing my time and also to achieve financial freedom at the same time, and also health, vitality, freedom, but in way less time, way more compressed time. So I learned to actually delegate out and automate and eliminate way more than I did before so that I could do less, achieve more faster, and spend more time with my loved ones. And I have a cutoff time at around 5:30 or so in the day, or maybe it's 5:30 to 6. That's my cutoff time. And also I want to reserve like my morning time to also spend with my baby as well. And I also put in little breaks in between to do one-time touches with my baby throughout the day.
So, the question that is on my mind is this: we kind of may understand how to structure the day, but what do we do with that feeling of, well, first of all, is guilt. One of the reasons why I felt overwhelmed right now is I realized that over the past few days, it's like I've been constantly apologizing or explaining why am I doing or not doing certain things, and this pressure that you have to do certain things. Contemporary society expects you to be hustling. That's the norm. And what do you do with that paradigm in which, I mean, you can say, okay, this is my cutoff time, but if you believe that you're actually losing possibilities or your financial freedom is going to suffer, isn't that going to kind of poison the time that you're taking off work?
Yeah, no, I think I was exactly like that. And the feeling still comes back, of course, every now and then. When you start living in the gap and not the gain, that's a great book. Or if you start comparing to other people who are going faster than you and you want to get there as well. So absolutely, that feeling is always there. And I see life as a balancing act. It's not always everything in balance, but it's in seasons, or everything is a balancing act. So, I have 5 goals for the year. Typically, I basically treat it like my antidote to that is focus. So only 5 goals for the year. I don't do more than 5 goals for the year. And I have, weekly goals, and then daily goals. So everything I'm doing for the day has to move the needle for at least 1 out of the 5 goals. So as long I have done that, I've done something to move the needle, 1 out of the 5, 2 out of 5, and maybe my top 3 priorities for the day. I've trained myself to be okay that, as long as I've done 1 or 3, I'm good. And I've also trained myself by setting routines that typically the most important task is already done by 8 a.m. So yeah, before the baby wakes up.
I know. Yeah. Actually, I also realized I had to write my book before everybody wakes up, because once people are awake, you don't own your time anymore. I know that you have a question for our audience, and I want you to take over the stage as you choose, because I know you have a lot of good stuff to share. But I'm going to interrupt with questions once in a while.
Yeah. I'm interested to know from the audience, just so we can make sure that we talk about what's going to serve you, is put in the chat, what is your biggest barrier to productivity? Or sometimes you are very productive already, but yet perhaps you don't recover or take time for yourself, or that you don't spend enough time. You're very productive at work, but there's lacking productivity with your spouse. Lacking date nights, lacking time and presence with your family, and even lacking time for self-care. So that's all part of productivity. Recovery is actually part of productivity. And like you said, Christina, that sometimes you just need a day to do nothing and you don't want to do anything. And that's because we often feel the need to recover before our brain can focus and tackle something again. It's part of the flow cycle by Steve Kotler. And so I really try to practice that, go deep and flow, recover, and like release, and deep and flow, recover, release. So
there are actually answers coming in because I can comment on my side, but I'll let you first see the answers.
Yeah, let's see. Wow, it's a lot. Let me see.
Yes, that's a lot.
I say focus, external distractions, too many things going on. Yeah. So distractions, definitely digital detox. I can tell you guys a little bit of how I structure my phone, my laptop, scheduling time. What do you do first? Not enough time for self-care. Okay. So I can start addressing some of this first, Christina. If
Can I
that
add my own also?
Oh, yeah.
One is moodiness. Sometimes I just get this obstinate thing that I'm done, yeah, that's somehow comes first, but also I'm not very organized. I need time to marinate before I produce anything. I have this, artist's productivity. I can go walk around for a day, like hibernating, and then suddenly I'll sit down and I'll do something in like a very short period of time.
Oh, I mean, that's part of your creativity. Like if you walk, that basically stimulates your creativity when you're doing something active. So you're doing exactly the right thing. Like sometimes we need to go to the shower for that aha moment.
Yes, that's my favorite place for aha moments.
Yeah. So, that's exactly the reason why I do sensory deprivation. I'll talk about the routines and organization a little bit, but that's exactly why sensory deprivation tank or float tank is my biggest recovery technique. I don't know if you've done it, Christina, or have you
I've been
heard of
always
it?
curious, but also incredibly scared of it.
If you meditate, I think it's absolutely doable. It's essentially 1 hour of me time, no gravity, no sight, no sound, no smell. You're in a pod. No, yeah, you don't see anything, hear anything, smell anything, feel anything except for the warm water. And there's so much salt in the pod that you're floating there like the Dead Sea, like you're in the Dead Sea. And then, without all the stimulation, like your phone, your email, etc., so your brain waves slow down and it drops deeper and deeper from beta to alpha, and then to theta, and then to delta, kind of like the sleep stage. But so as you drop lower is when you start getting creative, when different regions of the brain start connecting and ideas start coming. So I've gone in there to relax, to meditate. I've drafted a whole mind map of my productivity coaching course. I've also practiced Olympic weightlifting in my head in there. I've been doing lifting for like 10 years.
Oh
And
my.
I've also, yeah. Also amazing productivity hack too. Once you if you can do some lifting on health too, as well. So strength, endurance, strength, power, bone density, and efficient, and then you feel so great after that you can have another flow productivity session after. So I've done like a lot of things in the flow tank, and after that, essentially I've come out and feel like time doesn't matter anymore. I don't have to look at my phone. I don't need to be stimulated. Instead of being in sympathetic fight or flight mode, I can go into parasympathetic mode, and then my emotions are just like this, like a monk, I feel like. And I feel like no matter what happens in the world, it'll be okay. And I will take it on, and it's meant to happen. So I do it bi-weekly, and that's
Wow.
my hack for
Mm.
recovery.
Oh, wow. So guys, just reminding you, you can ask your questions in Q&A. Yeah, meanwhile, so what's the biggest mistake that people do with productivity nowadays?
Well, I would say, are you maybe distraction? Is that what you mean? The biggest mistake? Phones or what do you mean?
What is the 1 or 2 or 5 biggest things that we contemporary humans don't get about productivity? But I do think that humans are incredibly productive, maybe a little too productive. Maybe it's better for the world if we were not so productive. I mean, for the
Yeah, well, I think the number one misconception maybe is about multitasking. We think that multitasking is actually being productive versus just isolating yourself in one task is actually more productive. You can get into flow faster. So an example, like your desk shouldn't be cluttered with things. Your tabs shouldn't have multiple tabs open. It's just, screaming for your attention. But a lot of people think that multitasking, being able to task switch multiple things is productive, but it does take 20 minutes after you task switch to get back into flow again.
So we had these common concerns that people were writing here about juggling, about multitasking. You just mentioned about being overwhelmed. So where do you start if you feel that okay, there's so much happening, I have to I'm doing so much and yet I'm not doing enough and not fast enough? Where do you start?
Yeah. So there are two things. Number one thing is create 5 goals for the year. You can only handle 5. And out of the 5, one of them is yourself. One of them is your spouse or significant other, if you have one. One of them is your kids, if you have kids. So really, you just leave 2 things for professional endeavors. And I'm not talking about the things that are more, you started it and you've automated. I'm talking about things you're actively working on and need to grow and build. So as an example, I don't count podcasting as one of my 5 because it's automated. It's very simple. I record, everything is done. So a lot of times we're doing more than what we can handle, the 5, and adding on 3, 4, 5 professional items. So, and then along with that, together is I see a lot of people are saying not enough time for husband, kids, and yourself. It's really about scheduling the non-negotiables first. And really the first non-negotiable is yourself, not anything else. Which I've had to learn that I would always sacrifice. I've sacrificed my health, sometimes my workout, sometimes my float because I needed to get things done. It was only when I scheduled a regularly bi-weekly float, that's when it was done. So schedule it, and then also scheduling or coming up with a shutdown time or non-negotiable time block for you and the family and the baby. And then so like non-negotiables, like your health is your wealth. So something for your health, your own recovery, spending time with your loved ones with presence, creating experiences with them, going on date nights. We have non-negotiable, my husband and I, weekly date nights, no matter what. We have a house manager and an au pair to make that happen. And then you do the professional goals. And then when you're looking at your professional goals, you take a look at all of them. Well, actually, let me back up one more time. Before the 5 professional goals for the year, you back it up some more. And depending on how old you are, you can say in 50 years, 50 years, what kind of life am I living? You can meditate on this too. What kind of life am I living? Where am I at? What house am I in? What environment am I in? Who am I spending my time with? How am I feeling? Am I feeling joy, happiness? What am I doing? What am I contributing to? What kind of empire, if you were building an empire, what have I built? And the empire could be a ton of amazing kids, grandkids, teaching your future generation, being a role model. And then after you imagine what you wish your life to be like in 50 years, your vision, then you work backwards at your 5 goals for the year. And every time you're trying to decide what to pick, you just look at the 50-year goal, and then it's very easy. Is it going to get you there to your 50-year goal? And if not, then don't do it. So that's like a very brief answer.
No, we don't have to be brief, but I want to get a little back in the very beginning of your answer. I also have a non-negotiable time because my kids go to school and then they go to bed at a certain time. So there's this 2 hours in the day, which for me are sacred. But every time there comes, and because I'm in Europe and I have to work with the US, of course, that time is the one which is being very often encroached on. And every time I'm asked for something at that time, I feel guilty saying that, no, I'm sorry, but this time is not to be touched, because I feel, and here's the analogy which comes to my mind. I remember going to Habeck's training on money. And of course, he's talking about money and finances and all of that. And he said, if you were given $1 million, you would find a way to do certain things, right? So if something is important to you, then wouldn't you find a way? So in a professional sense, I know that publicizing my book is the priority number 1. And I always have that analogy in my mind, but if it's so important, wouldn't I sacrifice everything for that sake? And somehow there's this, idea in our society that professional goals are more important than anything else. Anything else only happens when you have time for that, and very often we don't have time. And although we understand the idea of balance, but telling in a professional setting, telling that, no, excuse me, but I'm spending my time with my children, that feels kind of wrong, as if I'm not, as if I don't want it. As if I don't want my goals, professional goals, enough if I'm not willing.
Yeah, the guilt of not doing enough, or for some reason I don't know why that's the culture. And I felt that way too. When I was training in school, I didn't go to my grandmother's funeral because in Taiwan, because I told myself, oh, I have an ICU shift, a critical care shift I have to do, which is crazy. That just shows like how ingrained that professional goals are in our head, and to the point where I was like, I can't go to the funeral. The people in the ICU depends on me, and I just can't take off like for a week to Taiwan, which is so crazy, right? And throughout the years, I've learned that nobody else is going to watch out for your time and your joy and happiness as much as you will. So yeah, like nobody's going to feel when they want to request something from you, it's for, for their own benefit. And I'm not saying I'm not saying it like a condescending way or anything like that. But typically they're not thinking about, a lot of times, if I'm requesting this time or this time, what Christina has to say no to is this, and this. Only you know that. So
that's true. I know, but I feel the guilt to say that, no, guys, I actually try to make it as a joke sometimes, but saying that, no, but this is the time that I have to spend with my children. I deserve it and they deserve it. So, and that guilt through everything, through me being in personal growth for 20 years has not disappeared. So I wonder, what do we do? And I think in US, maybe the situation is a little bit tougher, because I remember when we married with Vish, and he took 2 weeks off for a wedding, because, it's an Indian tradition. Weddings are big, and it's his own wedding. He couldn't miss it. And he got demoted because of the way the society runs. It's if you want to take time off, then there's no space for you in this business. And I mean, work is an important, it's our income, right? So how do you break out of the cycle? And is it possible to find this balance without actually your professional growth or career suffering? Because as a doctor, I'm sure you cannot always take decisions completely independently of I don't know, hospital management or something, right?
Yeah. I think I think it's a difference in terms of like abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset, that if this is the only way, versus looking out for, there must be another way. So maybe that's the one thing. There's option A, stay with a hospital who doesn't give me any time off, and 2 weeks of 3 weeks of vacation a year. And, the culture is that, they guilt trip you if you decide to take time off. And then option B is that you go part-time and you only work you take nights, you take weekends, so that you can do part-time. Option C is that you just don't work for them, and then you go work for somebody else. Like, I would say NASA is actually very generous, and they care about your family time. They actually encourage you to take time off. So I'm very lucky to be in an organization who values family life and time with loved ones. Option D is I don't work for anybody. I just create something on my own. I create something on my own time. So I think that there's always options that you can pick, and to have the mindset of there's no other way to there's always a way, and I will find a way. Very similar to when after I had my baby, I was like, oh my God, there must be another way.
So what was the other way for the baby and all this work that you do?
Yeah, so I would say, I know a lot of people here have kids, and distractions. So especially with the baby, the routine. So I would say I delegated everything out. Oh my gosh, I delegated everything out. So before that, I had my 3 priorities set for the night before. I would pull up all the resources. I would wake up early and get that done. after the baby, my wake ups are all like random. And I found out that I have to like put in things. Now he's sleeping through the night, so thank God. But I had to really delegate out everything. So by the time he was 2 months old, we have hired a nanny and also like a house manager / nanny, and then a virtual assistant for me to take care of everything else. So examples of what I've delegated, just imagine like I woke up, I was pumping in the morning, and then my house manager and nanny makes my matcha latte that's bulletproof and then hands it to me. And I'm just like sitting there drinking my latte, pumping. It was amazing. And then all the bottles are sterilized, washed, meal prep, formula machine, everything is filled, our laundry, any sort of general cleaning, that's done. She does our packages, etc. So those are some of the light cleaning as well, organization of the toys. And then the virtual assistant, I hire. So for those of you guys who don't have a virtual assistant, you think it was really expensive. I have a full-time virtual assistant for, it started actually at $3 an hour. It's entry-level assistant, but I was looking for intrinsic resourcefulness and motivation and intelligence as well, ability to follow instructions. So for $24 a day, I am able to leverage 8 hours out. So he does my all the social media posting, comments. He does my real estate. He will screen deals for me. Depending on the role I give him, he will put the info in the cash on cash calculator, essentially looking at the potential returns, and I go and analyze it. He would schedule inspectors, lenders, find lenders, talk calls with real estate agents. Some of the other tasks for coaching, he does my websites, he schedules with my clients, and then also he finds podcast guests for me. So he found, this essentially. So he helped with
Our
this.
assistants found each other.
Yeah, exactly. Our assistants found each other. And then, otherwise this wouldn't have happened probably. And then last thing, a little bit about personal tasks is that he also created slides for me. That's like another professional created slides for me. I would speak like audio recording and he would transcribe the audio recording. He does my Amazon research and add things to cart. He does my grocery shopping on Instacart, adds things to cart for me to approve, research swimming schools around the area, research travel, book my plane tickets, travel, hotels, etc. He even does my Amazon returns. For those of you guys who are so I don't know, I don't know if this applies in other countries, but in the US, I don't know, you got to package those returns, drive it to UPS. So like he does the returns on Amazon and then gives me the QR code. I call DoorDash, similar to Uber Eats, to pick it up. They pick up 5 packages to USPS or UPS or whatever, and you're done. You don't have to go. So those are very rough examples of what I've learned to delegate out. Also meals, like I rarely cook now. I have the ingredients ready to go. My house manager does the meal prepping for me. And then the au pair does all the baby solids for me.
So yeah, somebody's asking $3 an hour, but for you guys, and I guess I have mentioned that as well. I also learned the beauty of delegation when I lived in Asia, where it's a little bit more common, and I brought this habit back to Europe. But a valid question would be, though, for people who maybe are struggling still, how do you delegate when you maybe can't afford getting that service bought?
Yeah, absolutely. Perhaps you can split. And well, number one thing is you can split a full-time VA with somebody, perhaps. Then it may be a little bit more affordable. So that would be like $480 a month if it's at $3 an hour, right? Do you know a friend or family, somebody who wants to start a business, or maybe you and your spouse have a business together or separately, and maybe you guys can split a VA or maybe even quarterly. But so with 3 other people. So that means that, each week that or each month, I guess you're only paying about 80 or so. Is that right? Am I doing the calculation? It's $480 a month. So it would be $120 for a month for about 10 hours of work for you a week. So that would be number one, because I really feel like that's the first step to eliminate it out. Number two, I would say if you on your own, when those of you guys overwhelmed by to-do lists, the best thing to do is eliminate. So that may be the number one thing in terms of productivity. So for those of you guys who have not heard of the Eisenhower matrix, it's a way to split your to-do list in quadrants. I know a lot of you are saying there's so many to do, I don't know what to do first. So right now or after this, as you jot down, brain dump your list. And then so just imagine 4 quadrants. There is important, not important, there's urgent, not urgent, right? So just imagine the top quadrant, top left should be urgent and important. And those should be medical emergencies for you, your loved ones, or, in healthcare, something comes up and you have to tend to that patient. That goes into that quadrant. Some people might say that deadline-driven tasks or projects actually go in urgent and important. But I would say that if you prioritize correctly, you probably would have finished that project or task like a week ago before the deadline, or at least a few days ago, so that it's not urgent and important. So moving over, top right would be not urgent, but it's important. And that's where you should be spending most of your time. And for me, that is talking to you guys, that is talking to my clients, that is doing my NASA work. That's also in clinical care, like in patient care, a lot of it falls into that as well. Spending time, making sure I have date nights with my husband weekly, and then spending time going on walks with my baby every day, and then reading to him, connecting with him. Those are actually very important to me, and it's part of it every day. And then so you move down, this has to do with distractions too. You move down, the bottom left is urgent, but actually not important. So a lot of things, a lot of these are requests from other people to you. It's important to them, but it doesn't move the needle on your 5 goals for you. So those are things that you want to serve. You want to serve those people, of course, but at a later time of the day. We'll talk about quarters of the day. And then the last quadrant would be not urgent, not important, and to be eliminated. So some examples of those are distractions. I've eliminated badges from my phone.
Yes.
Color, I've eliminated colors from my phone. I'll show you guys my color. It's black and white. So it's grayscale.
I have colors, I have no badges.
Okay.
I hate
Yeah,
badges. They irritate me.
yes, exactly. I hate badges. There are no badges, no notifications, nothing on lock screen. This is the home screen. And I'll share it with you guys, just go in there, take off all notifications, because a lot of us have FOMO when we like take it
Yeah.
off. Just do it for like a 6 hours and then go back to it and see what you missed. And usually you haven't missed anything. And I've moved everything, like, I don't know, it's hard to see, but I've moved all the social media,
Yes.
inbox, email into a tab called inbox. And then that's where all my WhatsApp, all my Skype, all my Gmail.
I have the same, although you'll see one badge. I have only WhatsApp badges, but I have internet somewhere up there too.
Yeah, exactly. So then you schedule twice a day, maybe 3 times a day, to go check those messages and limit yourself to 30 minutes, no more than an hour. And that's it. You batch it. And then so a little bit on scheduling your day. For the first 6 hours of my day, I have a schedule to serve myself and my deep work time, creative work time. So those are examples of in the urgent and important. So reviewing some slideshow, reviewing a study, a clinical study, a document, drafting a document. Like this morning, I had to draft a document of this drug that we're thinking about using at NASA. So creating the slides, and any like analyzing real estate deals, like actually like takes a lot of brain power. So I would just do that, or anything that you don't like to do that is tedious. Number one, you outsource it if you can, like anything, a data entry. But if you cannot, if this is your zone of genius, then you do that first. So second half of the day, like I would say for me, after about noon or so, or after 10 to noon, that's when I serve others. So then I go and respond, then I go in and, draft those emails, etc. Third half of the day is, and have my calls, so my meetings, appointments, everything is in the afternoon. Third half of the day is spending time with family, loved ones, going out, whatever. I exercise too, kind of in between. And then the last 6 hours of the day is celebrating, reflecting, journaling, and then setting the top 3 priorities for the next day for your 5 goals for the year again.
So, I can't avoid speaking a little bit of science with you, because as we were talking, I suddenly realized that this is a conversation about productivity, but the first half of the conversation, we in essence spent talking about finding balance and about things which seem to be taking away from productivity, like, and I'm sorry, it will sound horrible, but family connections, love, they do take away from your productivity in the sense that we understand it professionally. Is there a reason why we talk about balance when we talk in the conversation about productivity? Is there a scientific reason for that?
For longevity, it's about connection with people. It's all about connection and a tribe connection.
I like how you twisted it. For longevity, you have longer time to do that.
I guess for health, maybe. Yeah, like in terms of science, for me would be for health benefits, for feeling of inner joy, inner peace. I feel like connection, in my opinion, is extremely important. And for people who are not aware of the blue zones, the study of 5 areas where people live, the longest, and one of them is the sense of belonging instead of isolation. So I just feel like if you feel at peace, if you feel stable, if you have a good family core, people you love, friends you can trust, then you can be productive and actually achieve your professional goals. So not everybody feels the same way. Of course, some people, it's all about professional goals only, and then not so much, creating a family, maybe have a dog, I don't know. But so that's okay too. That's totally okay. Not everybody has to have the same goals. Not everybody has to have the same balance, of course. But, I think we just accept, Christina, that you value your time with kids, and we respect that. And we respect other people who value actually their professional goals and not so much if they have children or not, then that's okay too. That's okay too. So
yeah, I agree, but I really like this this twist in the plot. If you live, let's say, 10 years longer, imagine how much longer you get to do your professional projects and how much time you win. You know what I want to, and I'm sorry, I'll turn a little bit feminist here. I absolutely agree that your family and your connections are important. I believe there is a gender gap when it comes to prioritizing your family and your connections. And women usually get actually criticized or get less opportunities. There is, I can't refer to exact studies, but I know that there is such a phenomenon where young women who haven't had children would get most likely a no on the same interview with an equally qualified male colleague of the same age, because of the assumption that she's going to, get married and have children and put the work on the background. It's more of a puzzle. I don't really have a question per se, because my question would be like, how can we get out of that? It's unfair. And does that actually influence our productivity?
in terms of
you have a child, how have you how has it influenced your productivity, your choice to actually have a child in this age and with your career and everything?
Yeah, I think I would say number one, like having a child, because I was already assigned to a mission of a crew launching, but luckily that mission was delayed. So, and it's interesting. Usually 2 flight docs are assigned to one crew, one astronaut for a mission. So both of us are females, and both of us were pregnant and due to deliver a month apart. So both of us actually had to take off and had to ask our fellow male colleagues to cover for us. And then we were joking after that, after this, they're never going to assign 2 fertile female flight surgeons to the same mission ever again. So though it worked out, everyone was very, again, we're lucky we're in a culture who's very family centric, and they were all willing to cover, and they completely understood, and everything worked out. And then I do absolutely agree that there are definitely other cultures who don't have that type of um, sentiment. Like if you are, and you don't even get paid actually in your 3 months. A lot of times if you take off, a lot of time is unpaid. So I really feel for a lot of people who are in, female in this world, that it does happen. All I can say is that I hope that you can go out there and find other cultures that really fit within, fit your family values. I don't know if that answers your question. Oh, and how it has affected my productivity. It has accelerated my productivity because I was pushed over the edge and I had to find a way.
This is actually, I wish you talk more about that, because I think this is such a damaging idea for our contemporary society, that women are less productive because they want to have children.
Yeah. And I think because I was able to leverage and outsource, I think that's the reason why. And I was pushed over the edge, and the fire under me is I want to succeed so that I have time for my baby, and so I can create residual income passively, so I can also get to financial freedom faster. So it lit a fire under me, and I also don't want to sacrifice more time to do it. So I was able to, like we talked about, outsource, distraction proof, as much as possible so that I can get things done. If you have that, find your why. A lot of times it's about your why. The book by Simon Sinek, Why, What, How, Find Your Why. Find your why. And once you have that fire under you, then you can focus. When you have too many things that you need to do, find your 5 goals, Eisenhower matrix, all of your lists, find your why, and then you'll get there. So because I was able to leverage the VA's help, because I'm in a tribe of physician entrepreneurs and also physician moms. So for those of you guys who are also physician moms who are going for entrepreneurship too, or currently an entrepreneur as well, just go to Facebook. There is a physician mom or mama doc entrepreneur. Just Google it. Search on Facebook. It's a group of physician moms who are trying to start ventures to support you. Because I know a lot of times once you become a mom with a full-time job and trying to start a business and connect with your family and your spouse, that seems like almost impossible. So seeing how other people have done it can be very helpful. So I would say find a tribe. My tribe helped me. And then also outsource things. Find a virtual assistant if you can, or employ your family for help if you can.
It's actually interesting because I think doctors are probably one of the most stressed slice of the population in US, as well as mothers probably. So it's good that they flock together. We are running out of time, but I want to ask this, since we already touched upon this topic a little bit. There's one more myth. I do not know. I'm calling it myth. Maybe it's true, but there is one more trend in productivity in the contemporary world, is the idea that a little bit of stress actually makes you more productive, which in a way you did touch upon. But how true is that actually? Because a lot of the time that little bit of stress it just goes overboard. At least that's my own example. I kind of like to be busy, but also I know that at some point I just get so enough that I have the day like I had this morning when I woke up and I said, I'm not doing anything. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. You're talking about hormesis. It's very much like, when you work out, you stress your body a little bit and you get better, or being anti-fragile, when you come across a challenge, an obstacle, you didn't realize you could do it, but you get even better. And I get stressed myself too, absolutely. Like whenever, like it comes in waves, of course, because things always come at you and you have to constantly do the Eisenhower matrix. I do it with my husband actually every few weeks on our priorities. So it will not go away. It will come. And I think what's important is to notice what kind of effect it has on your body. For me, whenever I do feel stress, I feel not so present. I feel like I'm ruminating. I feel like a sort of uneasiness and tightness and not just feeling very loose. I can sense it. So when you sense that, that just means that you put on too much, you're in too much of a rush. There's something that you're saying no to that's important to you. And then it's okay, and just feel okay. And it's okay to start taking things off your list, or delay it. Because I think an important thing is we have an inherent, we create our own urgent deadline in our head. But honestly, if that thing doesn't get done, like if the baby bottle doesn't get put in the dishwasher and it's sitting in the sink for like a whole day, what's going to happen? It's fine. But that used to stress me out.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
That baby bottle is like this chip on the phone. So before we take off, I want to see, there's a question, and normally you guys ask more questions and then I'd ask Bianca to bring you up, but I left it there because there was one question. Guys, you really should use this opportunity, those who are online. So for thousands of years, I'm reading out the question, I do not know who it came from. For thousands of years, we humans have evolved running away from pain. But nowadays, I have to embrace discomfort in order to thrive. How do I change this into my psychology? It seems like nothing works for a long time. I almost never feel like it for doing what I planned to do. So this is the question. It's Carmen, sorry. The question came from Carmen. So if you don't mind answering this question before we are done here.
So the question is,
just a second. The question is, so there's that for thousands of years we've called to get away from pain, but now we need to thrive. To thrive, we need to be in discomfort. So the question is, how do I change this into my psychology? It seems like nothing works for a long time. I almost never feel like it for doing what I plan to do. I guess.
Is it like leaning into the fire, into the pain?
Yeah. And
how do you lean into the?
Yeah.
How do you lean into the pain and to when, you know, people say jump, then you say how high instead of backing away? Is that the question essentially? Yeah. So I guess number one thing is to find out what is painful and what is uncomfortable. There is a way, if you're talking about the stress of tacking things on, there's a way to structure your day so that it is not uncomfortable and stressful. But if you're talking, but before I go there, back up a little bit, it would be like your why. If you have the right why, then you will jump in and you will do whatever it takes to get that done. So I think the number one thing is finding your right why and a focus. If you have a lot of things going on and you don't have a focus, you don't make any progress on anything. So focus. And then the next thing is that there's a way to schedule your day so that the non-negotiables are done first. And really, if you can get it done before 8 a.m. or before 10 a.m., then the rest of the day, you're good, you're done. Whatever happens, you can handle for the rest of the day. So it will be stress-free the rest of the day, actually, if you can finish your top 3 priorities for the day.
Thank you for that. As I said, we're going to be finishing now, and I want to ask people who are online with us to leave a heart for my wonderful guest in the chat. For those who are watching it in recording, and the majority of you, leave your hearts in the comments. They matter, even if they're in the comments, even if it's past the show, they matter. So leave your hearts in the comments. Thank you, Bianca, and thank you. Well, it's 2 Anns, but I know thank you, Ann's husband, also for your silent support in this show. And thank you, Ann, once again for joining us. Actually, that's the first time I thank you. But I want to ask as a finish-up question. So if people want to actually work with you closer and figure out their priorities, their big why, their different portions of the day, how can they do that?
So yes, absolutely. Thank you again for everyone's time. It was so awesome, interacting with the guests through chat as well. So if they want to find information of what I teach, you can go to my podcast website. It's not rocketscience show www.itsnotrocketscienceshow.com. On there, you can find the podcast episode page. And more importantly, if I know we didn't have time to address like the specific questions. So I'm offering, there's a way to book your 30-minute complimentary productivity optimization call on there. So just go on there, get on Calendly, and you can book the call with me. And I have a lot of free resources on the podcast itself. It's Not Rocket Science Show. And I'm on all of the social media. Ann Tsung, TANN TSUNG MD. So if you search on all social media, I will pop up, and just send me a message. Email me. I'm happy to read the emails. And again, that's TSUNGANNMD@gmail.com. So again, thank you so much. I really love reading all of this. I hope that, I don't know if this disappears, or do the messages, can that be saved in the question, so I can start addressing some of them?
Oh, maybe Bianca would know the answer to that. I actually don't know. But yeah, when the show is over, they do disappear. Bianca, can you give us the verdict?
I'm sorry, what was the question? It was interrupted.
Can we save the chat questions so that Anne can start answering them?
The chat questions. Okay, I will look into it, and I will send them to you, Christina.
Yeah, thank you. So we have it covered.
Yes, thank you. And a lot of people are asking about the virtual assistant. I went through a virtual assistant recruiter. If you want the contact introduction to Scott Ramage, he's in Dallas. He has like 40 plus VAs. He knows how to screen them. We work together. He's really amazing in finding, my VA. So he'll basically work with you, learn what you need, what you want, and then interview them for you, and then give you the best candidates for you to interview. So just send me an email, tsungannmd@gmail, and then we'll send you the intro to Scott. So thank you again, Christina. I appreciate everything. It's like been an amazing experience.
Yeah, I'm also glad our assistants found each other. So yes, thank you everyone, and see you in a week. Bye-bye.
Bye.